You would think that, at this point, the Inferno would be over. Nastier's attempts to use the stepping discs to invade Manhattan was shut down by the Exterminators and the New Mutants. His creepy attempts to make Illyana his demon bride were also rebuffed. His other strategy, to open a permanent link between Manhattan and Limbo through the sacrifice of Nathan Summers and the fall of Madelyne Pryor, has been ruined thanks to the X-Men and X-Factor. Nathan has been saved. Madelyne killed herself in an attempt to kill Jean Grey, who only survived thanks to the memory of the Phoenix that Maddie still possessed. But that second chance came with a cost. Accepting the Phoenix memory also meant accepting the new memories that it had acquired as part of Madelyne, and those memories contain dangerous secrets. As Uncanny X-Men issue 243 opens, we find the gathered mutants recovering from their rough night. The X-Men still bear the signs of Inferno on their bodies, as their transformed costumes have remained that way. But they also show signs on the inside. Havoc and Longshot are the most distraught, as they came the closest to their darkest natures. Cyclops isn't doing great either, as he stands over the dead body of his wife. Tears run down his face. Why did Madelyne have to die? Why did she kill herself? He asks. He should have been able to save her. Kneeling next to Madelyne, cradling her body, is Jean Grey, and she suddenly lets out a powerful no. Her body starts to twitch and shake as she cries out in pain. Wolverine, Storm, and Cyclops rush to her side, but they can't get close. She's put up a telekinetic field around herself. Storm has Psylocke take them into Jean's mind, an easy task thanks to the connection that she made when teaching X-Factor about the techno-organic threat of Magus. They enter Jean's mind, manifesting in a memory of the blue area of the moon. Uh-oh. This is where the Phoenix died, Wolverine notes. And he's right, but Cyclops doesn't understand why they're here. After all, Jean was never there. She shouldn't have this memory. They witness the Phoenix, as Jean, diving in front of an energy blast meant to kill Scott. It cries out his name, he cries out hers, both in memory and his astral form. And she dies again. But from there, the scene suddenly changes. We witness what none of the X-Men did at that time. A part of the Phoenix races away, burning back to Earth, where it will attempt to rejoin Jean and be rebuffed. Before anything else can happen, from out of nowhere, a gloved fist punches through the memory, shattering it like glass. The arm then moves sideways, destroying even more of it, and revealing the man behind the attack, Mr. Sinister. Not that any of our cast recognizes him yet, as they are totally lost and thrown off balance by his sudden appearance. Psylocke reminds them that whoever this guy is, he is destroying memories. Even if Jean's body goes unharmed by this attack, without her memories, her spirit, her very soul, will be effectively dead. This is why she must have cried out earlier in the issue. She sensed the attack happening and put up the telekinetic field in an instinctual attempt to defend herself. The group of mutants flies back to Memory Earth, dodging glass-like shards of memory. Cyclops reminds them all that Jean has psychic defenses that were put in place by Professor X years ago. So how can this monster even be here doing this? As they pass by the memory shards, they have their answer. The shattered memories aren't Jean's, they're Madelyne's. Psylocke guesses that the pair must have bonded, Madelyne passing her memories on to Jean. They fly through Madelyne and Scott transporting some freight on their family's airplane when they first met, and we see them admiring their newborn son before a fireplace. Here is where Psylocke puts forth the guess that there is an actual psychic link between Madelyne and Jean. Maybe they don't just look alike, like everybody noted, but maybe they are alike? Scott then recalls that Maddie referred to herself as a broodmare, that she was meant to mate with him. But why? And why him of all people? What is happening? The four of them leave behind Madelyne's memories, and now approach Jean's. Her territory of the memory shards is fronted by a very large one, reflecting Professor Charles Xavier's mansion. On the front porch of the mansion is a figure, Madelyne, dressed as the Goblin Queen. She gestures at them, and an energy blast knocks them apart. They slam into the ground, their minds reeling from the pain of the impact. Jean Grey, dressed in her old original trainee uniform, now races out to them. She apologizes for the attack. She can't seem to control herself anymore. Storm mentions that this kind of thing is more up Rogue's alley. Two minds occupying the same space, two minds merging together. She asks Psylocke to bring Rogue into the Mind Link for some advice, but Psylocke can't. She tries, but there's something interfering. She can't reach out, nor can she leave. A massive shadow then rises in the sky, blotting out the white landscape around them. Mr. Sinister grins. He can't let them leave before this is well and truly over. He smashes another hand down, obliterating another one of Maddie's memories. Jean cries out in response. That memory is gone. She can't recall it. Enough of this. Storm races forward on a jet stream, intent on defending her friend. She fires a lightning bolt through Sinister, but he laughs it off. This is a psychic realm. Her physical powers can't harm him here. He then wraps her up in one of his cape tendrils and dangles her in front of his mouth. Once he consumes her essence, she'll no longer exist. She'll be a blank slate for him to fill again, and he'll make her love every moment of it. He suddenly freezes, though, as Psylocke unleashes a mind blast that manages to free Storm. Wolverine and Cyclops just stand around, unsure of what their more physical-based powers can do. They don't even know what kind of devil they're up against, Cyclops argues. How apt, Madelyne says, lounging seductively on the ground, given that he, meaning Sinister, is their very own devil. Scott is shocked to see her here, but he also knows that she isn't real. She's just whatever remains of Madelyne's memories. But she gives them Mr. Sinister's name and hobby, namely cloning redheads. They ask Madelyne to help, but she laughs them off. I mean, why would she? If she does nothing, then Jean basically dies, and they all suffer because of it. And if she's lucky, they'll all die here with her. This sounds great to me. Wolverine grabs her by the shoulders. What'll happen to her kid if they all die here? He'll be an orphan, left to Sinister's tender mercies. Yeah, she's had it rough. Yeah, she has had it rough. He would give his soul for her and the Phoenix if it could change what happened to either of them. But in the meantime, she has known love, she has a child, she has had blessings that he has never known. But she can choose right here what her life means. It doesn't have to be all power and hate. It can be love and mercy. Madelyne shakes off his hands. He doesn't understand. He never could. He is as God made him. She was created by someone altogether less kind. Is it any surprise that she's just as nasty? And now Storm grabs her. No, that is a cheap excuse, and she will not let Maddie hide behind it. Everyone is created. It is the first step that we all share in existence, but what you do with that journey is up to you. It is a responsibility that all people share. And right now, Sinister isn't just destroying them, he's destroying her memories. All that she is, all that she could ever be, he would see ruined. Is she going to let that stand? Can she stomach that thought? Letting him use her like he did and then just throw her away? But Jean argues that Storm's point sounds easy, but it's in actuality much harder to live. She wanted to be strong and independent. She denied what the Phoenix offered, and look what happened here. She has been the Dark Phoenix, consuming planets, and she has been the Goblin Queen, ready to murder her own son. Maybe it would be better if she just died here. Psylocke's psionic attack on Mr. Sinister finally fails. She cries out in pain as her pink energy signature shatters, sending her reeling. Sinister then reaches out to Madelyne/Jean. He agrees with her. By clinging to who she used to be, she runs the same risk of damnation again. He can stop that. He can wipe her mind clean, and she will be free of those sins and any future ones. Madelyne/Jean, now dressed again as the Goblin Queen, turns and walks towards him. Then she smiles and whispers, "No." Fire erupts from her body as she suddenly grows in size, towering over Sinister as the Dark Phoenix. This is her mind. This is her soul, her life, and he cannot have them. Engulfed in fire, a massive explosion rocks the psychic plane. And in his hidey hole, Sinister physically reels. The room around him is burned and charred, a side effect of Jean's telekinetic telepathic pushback. Smoke rises in columns from the floor. From the empty door frame to the room, Malice teases him. Things didn't go as planned? Without any sign of annoyance or bother, Sinister calmly orders her to alert the others. They're about to have company. And he's right. The first wave of X characters are already arriving. Storm carrying Wolverine, Archangel carrying Cyclops, and Jean held aloft in her telekinesis. They're all hurt to see that Sinister has been hiding in their old home, Professor Xavier's school. Jean was able to glean that information from Sinister before she burned him out of her mind. Psylocke scans the area for any thoughts, but she finds none. She reports to Rogue, who is the one who transported her here, that either the building is empty or whoever is inside of it is expertly hidden. The rest of them then enter through the roof. As they begin to explore the building, they're chatting, Claremont style, and Cyclops notes that Jean sounds different when talking about Sinister. She sounds... Is bloodthirsty the word Jean offers him? Maybe she is. Madelyne is a part of her now. That man stole Jean's blood, grew a whole separate person from it, and then manipulated that woman and ruined her life. It is no wonder that Madelyne hated them. And hates Sinister. He, more than anyone else that they have ever faced as the X-Men, Mr. Sinister is evil in the purest sense of the word. She knows this down to her core. And if they really are heroes, she says, they'll stop him for good. Cyclops is horrified as she walks away from him. He leans over to Storm, shocked. She means... Storm nods. Yes. She's acting more like Wolverine than Wolverine, Cyclops adds, clearly bothered by this change in her. But Storm believes that she has good reason. In the basement, in the hangar complex, we find Psylocke and Rogue checking things out. As they walk the dark pathways, we see a pair of eyes watching them from the shadows. Back in Manhattan, we then find Beast and Longshot helping John and Elaine Gray settle on X-Factor's home. A massive, skyscraper-sized spaceship floats horizontally in the water surrounding the island. Picture, like, the big, long, straight Tetris piece, but laying down flat and in the ocean, and this thing towers over the tallest, biggest buildings in Manhattan. This thing, which is literally just called Ship with a capital S, is just a big rectangle with engines at the bottom of it. Standing on its hull is our cast, with the Greys dressed in extra Cyclops costumes. Beast and Longshot have stayed behind because their powers are the least useful for travel and help get the Greys out of way and settled. But now that that's done, Beast says they can head out to help. Longshot hesitates a little bit, though. After what Nastier did to him, what he made him into, how can he trust himself? How can he know that his powers won't betray the X-Men when they need him the most? Meanwhile, the rest of the X's have been making their way through the alley, which connects to the mansion underground. This means Iceman, Colossus, Havoc, and Dazzler. So far, they haven't had any trouble. They are almost to the mansion, which is when trouble shows up. Blockbuster returns. Remember him? Demonic arms pulled him into a wall back in Uncanny issue 240. Well, much like with the X-Men, he has been changed by the Inferno. He is easily twice the height of all of the other characters, sporting beady demonic eyes, pointed ears, and a massive oversized jaw filled with sharp teeth. With his new power levels, Blockbuster is able to shrug off Iceman's blasts, Colossus's punches, and even Dazzler's photon blasts, which she says can punch through a tank. He charges at her, scoops her up in one hand, and he is ready to squish her like a banana. But then his head suddenly explodes. As his body falls over, Dazzler is surprised to see Havoc standing calmly behind him, his fist steaming with energy. She stammers out that she thought he was scared to use his powers like that. Havoc replies that he's changed. In the hangar bay, the hunting eyes following Psylocke and Rogue are revealed to be those of Sabretooth's as he dives at them. His claws tear through Psylocke's armor easily, but he doesn't manage to hurt her, and then his fangs drop for her throat. But he suddenly freezes as she telepathically takes control of his mind. She slams him with a kick, and he falls back, his mind temporarily fried. Rogue kind of wanted to do that herself. Storm's group, meanwhile, has continued to search the mansion. They are redirected for a moment when Jean lets out a pained cry. They rush to her, again, but she is fine, physically. Emotionally, she is just incredibly frustrated. Sinister has searched through every aspect of their lives, their rooms, the professor's office. Everything that they know or own is just laid bare and strewn about. There's no care, there's no respect. It's just chaos. Cyclops can understand it. The better you know your enemy, the better you're able to destroy them. From a tactical viewpoint, Sinister's pillaging of their memories makes sense. But Jean is still focused on the personal loss, which is when malice strikes. Initially, she had the upper hand in this fight, but working together, the X-People assembled are able to stop her and catch her. Malice teases them, though, for their victory. Anything that they do to her, they'll also do to poor widow Lorna. And here Storm smiles. If they can find a way to separate the two of them, then know that they will do it. And if they can't separate the two of them, well, better that Lorna should know peace than stay trapped like this. Held in a powerful telekinetic field, Malice is forced to wait while the rest of the X-Peeps show up. Once they're all gathered, minus Beast and Longshot, Storm orders Psylocke to scour Malice's mind. If she can save Lorna, then do it. If not, find where Mr. Sinister is. And now Malice is starting to get scared. She warns them not to do this. She and Lorna aren't two people in one body. They are one person now. What Storm is talking about, it could kill her. But Storm is adamant. And now, so is Jean. She argues that if Malice wants to live, she can help them. Wolverine backs up that idea. So Malice switches tactics, begging Alex to help her. She loves him after all. Doesn't he remember what they had? But she hasn't realized how much Alex has changed. Well, if you loved me, then prove it, Alex says. Talk. Everything is quiet for a moment as Malice makes her decision. And then the entire mansion explodes. As the dust settles and the smoke dissipates, Malice emerges from the rubble. As Sinister approaches, she yells at him for not giving her any warning, for nearly killing her, for using her as bait. The Sinister is unaffected by her complaints. He'll use her how he sees fit. He then pulls Jean's body from the rubble and smiles. It doesn't matter that he's lost Madelyne now. He has the original. Oh, beautiful. Malice warns him that the X-Peeps won't be happy with him making off with their favorite redhead, so he orders her to kill them. But now one man stands in their way. Longshot stands atop the rubble and warns them not to hurt his friends. My name is Ben, and this has been Comic Book Breakdown episode 24.13 of the X-Men's Inferno crossover, an explosive homecoming. This issue does some really interesting plot shifting. Up to this point in the crossover, our big bads have been Nastier and Madelyne. Nastier had the intellectual part of the plan. He put all of this crap into motion, but it was really Madelyne's personal, emotional journey that made this story impactful. Nastier, for all his work, wasn't really that interesting a character. Madelyne, however, was interesting. But her role in this story put authors Chris Claremont and Louise Simonson in kind of a weird place. Longtime readers of Uncanny X-Men had been following Madelyne's journey for almost 6 years at this point. They had been there when Scott fell in love with her, they had watched her struggle with his role in the X-Men, they had watched her survive the various strange adventures that marrying into the X-Men can subject you to. Madelyne was never treated as an extra character in the book or as a hanger-on, but as a cast member in her own right. People at the time reading the book would have liked Madelyne. But when editorial edict forced Claremont and Simonson to move Maddie aside for a return to Jean Grey, they needed to shift Maddie's story from a likable, compelling partner for Scott into something else. And obviously, they chose the route of a villain, because what are you going to do when your husband abandons you? For some people, the arc of Maddie's could be considered character assassination. Some readers could have been just as upset at Scott's in-universe choices as the authors were upset about the out-of-universe choice made to restore Jean Grey. And rather than take the heat themselves, Claremont is kind of shifting the blame for Madelyne's story over onto Sinister. This is a weird story move, given how late into the Inferno we are. We opened this thing with Nastier, we then invested in Madelyne, and now, with just 2 issues left, including this issue, we're suddenly switching to Mr. Sinister? I mean, that's flooping fast. And it's strange because up to this point, we aren't invested in Sinister's narrative almost at all. He's barely appeared in this story, and even when he has appeared, I think it's interesting that he was trying not to appear. That's the whole reason that he had the Marauders try to kill Maddie issues ago. That's why he tried to destroy Maddie's memories here. He does not want to be involved in this shit. But Claremont knows that the audience might kind of agree with Maddie's perspective regarding Scott. He did do her wrong. Marvel editorial did her wrong. And if we sympathize with her, then the person that we might blame is Marvel themselves, and we might stop buying their comic books. And obviously, as much as I love these characters and these worlds, comic books at the end of the day are a product being put out by a company, and so they have to keep in mind how the audience feels about those books. And so Chris Claremont gives us an out. We don't need to be mad at Scott. We don't need to be mad at Marvel. We don't even need to hate Madelyne for her actions. We need to hate Mr. Sinister. In the same way that Madelyne's story was so potent that history has largely forgotten Nastier's role in it, if the authors make Sinister's story strong enough, we just might forget Maddie's role in this story too. Claremont then uses the issue to literally shift story gears. We are done with demons, the memory of Madelyne even chooses to rebel against Sinister and save the X-Men in doing so, the characters that she has now been trying to kill. After all that she has been through, Maddie finally chooses to fight the person who orchestrated all of her pain from the beginning. It doesn't quite redeem her, but it does help alleviate that foul taste in our mouths. During the astral plane scene, when they're inside of Jean's memories, there's a really interesting back and forth going on. When the X-Men are talking to Jean/Maddie, the 2 memories of them, I guess, switch back and forth with no warning. When they first encounter her, it's Jean in her younger costume, and then Maddie as the Goblin Queen, and then Jean in a later costume, and then Maddie in her flight suit. The costume change is done to indicate which part of the character is currently dealing with the X-Men. Claremont and Silvestri are demonstrating on the page, before our very eyes, the idea that Jean and Madelyne's memories are reconciling here into one person. They aren't 2 separate identities in one head, they are becoming one. Claremont and Silvestri don't explain this. There is no dialogue box or narration box to say what is happening here. They just show us it happening. Oh, and I love it. This kind of idea happens again when Blockbuster shows up. There is no editorial box mentioning his disappearance or what has happened to him in between. You are just expected, as an audience member, to recall what happened to him, and I love the sense of satisfaction that I got when this happened. I had made a mental note to follow up on Blockbuster's fate anyways, just as part of the show, like, oh, let's see if they forget about this one. But they didn't forget about this one. He came back, and I was like, oh, and I pointed excitedly. That was a great bit of continuity. And for an author who is known kind of for over-explaining everything in his comic books, I love that Claremont doesn't say anything at all. You've been reading the comics, you saw what happened to Blockbuster, you've seen what's happened to the X-Men with their darker natures revealed due to Inferno, and now the character returns. You get to put those pieces together and experience the story yourself, and I love it! The rest of this issue is largely built around exploring the changes that Inferno has wrought upon the teams. We see Havoc no longer hesitate to kill at all. When just issues ago, he didn't even want to kill a murderous alien like the Brood. Here, he sees Blockbuster and blows his head off without a second thought. Remember, Alex probably doesn't know about Sinister and his cloning and all of that stuff going on in the background. Jean knows because she absorbed Maddie's memories, but the X-Men haven't been told about that. As far as they know, they are killing the Marauders when they kill the Marauders. So as far as Havoc is concerned, he just killed Blockbuster for realsies. He has no idea that he might come back at some point. This darker change is also explored in the team that goes to Xavier's mansion. The X-Men have been the more murderous group out of the two of them, and please note that Rogue, Psylocke, Storm, and Wolverine are the ones who go to the mansion. These are all good tactical choices, don't get me wrong. Psylocke is a mostly mental character as a telepath, so pairing her with Rogue, who is a physical powerhouse, makes a lot of sense. Storm and Wolverine are also good choices. Storm, from a leadership perspective and as kind of the leadership representative of the X-Men, and of course, Wolverine as a tracker, and he can recover from almost any damage done to him. But again, we have been shown that these two characters are rather bloodthirsty. It was only an issue ago that Storm and Cyclops were debating the destruction of Nastier and its necessity. The last three people here are Archangel, who is dealing with his own inner darkness, and only a day ago killed his former best friend Cameron Hodge, and then Cyclops and Jean Grey. Other than Cyclops, this is almost a late 80s X-Men hit squad. And notice that when Jean says how badly Sinister has violated their privacy, she wants him dead too. The things that Sinister did to Maddie now happened to Jean, since she absorbed Maddie's memories. Everything that Maddie experienced, everything that she did, all of the evil that she was capable of, now lives inside of Jean Grey. She looks at what Mr. Sinister has done, and she wants him dead. That is a huge change for a character like Jean, often paired with Cyclops. These are the two goody two-shoe characters of the X-Men, and it's why Cyclops points it out to Storm. To him, this development is really alarming. And to Storm, Jean is justified. Even their confrontation with Malice leans into the X-Men's more threatening aura. Malice has always relied on the fact that she is inside the body of someone that the X-Men love in order to protect her from them. But if she is truly bonded to Lorna, then there is no saving Lorna, is there? And Malice is just too dangerous to live. Would they have risked killing Lorna in order to learn Sinister's location? Ordinarily, I would have said no. But after what we've seen recently in these past few issues, Havoc killing Blockbuster, Jean wanting Sinister dead, Storm destroying Nastier, and Archangel killing Hodge, what would stop them if they wanted to? Sinister does stop them, blowing up the mansion, and if I have any complaint about that, it's just that everyone survives the explosion. I can buy some of these characters going unscathed thanks to just their positioning or their superpowers. but everyone is fine. Nobody gets injured by this. Like, there's no drama in this explosion at all, other than just the drama of the moment. So it's fine. It's a nice way to end the issue. It does catch you off guard. Again, Xavier's mansion is generally considered this sacred holy spot in the X-Men mythos. So to have it destroyed by this man who has violated everything about them so far, he goes one last step further and blows up their old home. And then we have Longshot holding the line at the very end of the comic. In the back of our minds, we're meant to be asking, what about his concern from earlier? Longshot's good luck only works when his motives are pure and his heart is good. But now his heart has been tainted by evil. Like literally, not even metaphorically, thanks to Nastier. Longshot seems to have regained himself, but now he knows that the potential for evil is a part of him. So what if he screws up? What if his powers backfire on him? These are all fine concerns when Longshot was back in Manhattan. But going up against forces like Mr. Sinister and Malice, needing to put his powers into practice when they might fail him at this very critical juncture, those concerns seem a lot more pressing. Any one of the X-Men would find a challenge here with these villains, but with Longshot as the only guy standing, I mean, yeah, this doesn't look good, and that's a real clever way to end this issue. Next week, the X-Family faces down the man who created Madelyne Pryor, who knows them better than they know themselves, and who just destroyed their family home. But Mr. Sinister's reach extends farther back than it seems. Join me in a week for Comic Book Breakdown episode 24.14 of the X-Men's Inferno crossover, Sinister's Secrets. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.